Moving on to the NFC West, draft grades, team by team, division by division. We're breaking down every pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. NFC West is up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love our everydayers. Appreciate you hanging out throughout the draft process. And we'll be here every day getting you ready for the 2025 season. If you're new to the program, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now. Pause and hit subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Interesting division here, Matt, because they're a team where any team could place first, any team could place last, I feel like. And I think the draft just solidified that. The team that did place last was the 49ers. They get a last place schedule. They added 11 more players, and I think they're ready to compete and be back at the top of the division. The Arizona Cardinals have been the worst team traditionally in the division the last few years. They've been adding tons and tons and tons of pieces. The Seahawks are interesting. They swapped quarterbacks. They're still trying to build their team, I think, in the Ravens image. And then you have the Los Angeles Rams, who really had a tiny draft class, but they were the tops in the division. So there's like almost a shotgun start, I think, this year. I think it's going to be one of the closest divisions to begin the season, and then we'll see how things shake out, and we'll see if these draft classes can make a big difference for us and how we envision these teams going forward. And let's start with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Who, the amount
it is a very tightly bunched division. I hadn't thought about that as much. A really tightly bunched division. I think the Rams are the best team, but they added the least in the draft,
Right. And I think even with the losses for the 49ers, I think on paper, you get everyone back healthy, and they I don't think they're worse than the Rams on paper either. And then you have a team like the Arizona Cardinals.
They're going the right direction.
I don't think the Cards have enough snaps for how many defensive linemen they have now, man.
It's pretty obvious that some of these guys came from Philly, Yeah.
It comes from Philly. I think he might. And look, they needed a lot of work on the defense, and they've put in that work on the defensive side of the ball. So are they ready now for prime time? Arizona Cardinals draft, pick number 16 in round 1. It was Walter Nolen, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. They came back in round 2 and scooped up the sliding Michigan cornerback Will Johnson. Round 3, Jordan Birch, another big athletic defensive lineman, listed as an edge here. And it looks like he got down in 279 pounds and ran 4.6s. So I think he wants to be an edge rusher. Is that his best position, or is he going to be a sort of a combo player? Cody Simon, strong side linebacker, Ohio State, round 4. In round 5, they doubled up on Ohio State defenders, Denzel Burke, the corner. The Hayden Connor out of Texas, guard in round 6, and then Keaton Crawford, Nevada safety, in round 7. But before the draft last year, and we didn't really get to see a lot of them, big defensive end, Darius Robinson, that could play outside, could play inside. Does this draft say anything about him? They brought in Calais Campbell as well. They brought in Josh Sweat, was the big addition to them in the offseason. Like, they go 10 deep on the defensive line all of a sudden in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't think it's an indictment on Robinson. I just think it's how they're going to do this. They've had to do a lot of funky schematic things on defense because they really haven't had any players. And I think this coaching staff is pretty impressive. I mean, they've outkicked their coverage to me every step of the way. When they took over in Arizona, I thought they had nothing. I mean, they were maybe the most desolate roster in the league. And clearly what the goal of the draft was more and more defense. I mean, the only offensive player they took was the guard in the 6th round. I mean, so there were some criticisms. You could use another receiver. Another guard would have helped. Yeah, but the offense has a lot of resources invested in it, a lot of first-round picks, a lot of their best guys. Now it's time to really attack the defense. I'm really optimistic about Walter Nolen. I mean, Calais Campbell there to kind of oversee the defensive line room. I think that has a lot of value. I honestly don't have any idea how to comment on Will Johnson. I mean, that could be a huge boom. It could be a bust. I mean, what's the injury situation? Who knows?
As one of our listeners told me on Twitter recently, or maybe it was in the YouTube comments, I can't remember. By the way, get your mailbag questions in for next week if you want to talk draft, you want to talk 2025 season, whatever it is, off season, scuttlebutt. But basically, he's like, well, I don't like the boomer bust label for drafts and draft picks because every team and every player and every draft is boomer bust in reality. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right.
Pretty true.
Some are more than others. And I think this is absolutely.
Some don't have the boom. Everybody could bust.
Right. Yeah. This is the boomer bust draft class potentially because Walter Nolen could absolutely be a star.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't any questions, character stuff, or, does he love football and all that? If there wasn't that, he would have not been here at pick 16, in my opinion, for the Arizona.
I think Cardinals. He could be Jalen Carter or close to it. I mean, if the boom.
He's got that kind of physical ability, just a natural strength and twitch that not a lot of guys have. And then Will Johnson, does he even his knee has to be in a really bad, I get him not going in the top 15 of the first round.
Yeah.
You didn't get you didn't get any good testing numbers on him, but the tape is still too good for him to be there in the middle of the second round. So there's got to be really bad reports on that knee. And, did you just draft a player who's not going to play? Or not going to play at least for a while? Is he just going to go on the sideline for a year? Is he, maybe that's why they doubled up at corner and drafted Denzel Burke a little bit later, just to cover them just in case. Will Johnson is not ready to play at some point in the near future. And then Jordan Birch is already like a guy that's like, you love the body and he was a big time recruit, but it's like the play doesn't quite match. You don't even really know where to play him. So, I mean, this is as boomer bust as it gets with the top of the draft.
Yeah, really well said. And just the D lineman, there's just so many different body types, and Birch is kind of an odd fit, but I don't think they care. I think they just want a variety of different D linemen and just keep bringing them in. Yeah, even Simon can play on the line of scrimmage. He's kind of an old school Sam.
Right. So they got that. It's like a bowl of M&Ms. They got all the different colors. They're all defensive linemen, but they're all very different. And so we'll see how that comes together on the defensive front for the Arizona Cardinals, doing a lot of work on defense, clearly. And if we have to give a letter grade, Matt, how do you see this draft for the Cardinals? Because Cardinals fans are probably arguing for an A. There's probably some GMs in the NFL that are like, well, we passed on Walter Nolen and Will Johnson for a reason, and they might not grade that as highly. So how do you see it?
Yeah, I've been a pretty stingy grader, so I'm just going to stick with a B. I do think there's some risk, but I love the vision. It's clear what they came into this draft to do, and they accomplished it.
I don't like stacking risk on top of risk necessarily, but I think taking Will Johnson where they took him, it's like, I mean, how can you not say that's a decent bet at that point? And even Walter Nolen, he's better than the 16th player in this draft, talent-wise.
Deep into the second round to get Will Johnson,
To be honest with you, I kind of like it. And I think we had a little safer at the end of the draft and got some guys that can contribute, in Simon and Burke and Crawford even. So I like this class. I'm going to give it a B+.
And it sure looks like a lot of special team help here in day 3 as well.
Next is the Los Angeles Rams. We'll break down this draft class. Before we get to the picks, though, I just want to highlight the trade because this class is almost an incomplete grade for me, Matt, because they traded with the Falcons to get out of round 1 and added themselves a first-round pick next year, which was probably the best move they made, but it's going to obviously affect how good this class is.
Yeah, so I mean, I give them a lot of credit. When we do the grade, I'm definitely going to factor in next year's first. But, I mean, I think the Falcons will be a quality team. I think the Rams are going to be a good team. I don't know that you're going to get a top 10 pick out of it. I mean, you might have the 18th and 25th pick overall, and that might not get you into the top 5 to get your quarterback. But I do think they got a lot of value. From what I understand, I mean, it was pretty public knowledge last year. They were kind of infatuated with Brock Bowers. I guess this year they really tried to trade up for Loveland, and then they couldn't get any of that done. So they settled for Ferguson, but they really were bent on a tight end, apparently.
and I don't love it. More
No,
on that.
that's a weird position to be excited about, but
I love the trade, but did they stick the landing post trade? We'll give a grade on the Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks, and San Francisco 49ers from the 2025 NFL Draft. Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV 4K. And did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. All you do is you grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. And look, you already have a console. A Fire TV Stick 4K is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your and your kids possibly games wherever you plug in. And talking about those shows, everything all in one place. You don't have to flip between apps, and everything just works with the Fire TV Stick 4K, including Netflix, YouTube, and so much more. You can even watch Peacock and Williamson and all the Locked On shows on your Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. So my Rams grade is going to be better than what they ended up with just because of the trade. They got themselves the future first, and I think the Rams clearly won that trade with the Atlanta Falcons, and we'll see if the Falcons made that trade like as if they're going to be drafting 32 next year, right? So we'll see if that works, and obviously that'll be a sliding scale, and we'll find out how that trade really did work out with the guys that the Falcons got and how good James Pierce is and how good the Falcons are next year. The Los Angeles Rams roster is not, I mean, it's not as star-studded as, their Super Bowl roster was. And they lost some pieces, and they didn't add a lot here in the draft. So after the trade, they ended up with the 14th pick in round 2, and they drafted Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon. And to be honest with you, I thought there was better tight ends on the board even when they picked. And in fact, one of those tight ends went just a couple picks later that we'll talk about. Round 3, Josiah Stewart, undersized but productive edge rusher out of the University of Michigan. Jarquez Hunter, running back out of Auburn in round 4. Ty Hamilton, a Ohio State defensive tackle in round 5. They went with Chris Paul, undersized, but love the way he plays, linebacker out of Ole Miss, all the way down to the late comp round 5 area, and then finished it up with Kanata Mumfield, a Pittsburgh wide receiver in round 7. Matt, what's the local angle on Mumfield? What kind of a wide receiver they get out of Pittsburgh in round 7? Do you have any insight there locally?
A little. I mean, he's a tough guy. He has a little bit of that Cooper Kupp feel to him, where he'll block and he's physical. He's fine. I don't think, he's a 7th round pick and should be. I don't think they got any kind of great steal. He's not the next Larry or Antonio Bryant. I'll tell you that.
I think that's how I feel about this draft. He's fine. I say that.
Yeah, I don't love any of the picks.
One of the guys they drafted. My favorite pick, just because of where they got him, was Chris Paul. I think he's going to play like a maniac. Is he, athletically sized, height, weight, speed, gifted enough to be a starting linebacker in the NFL? I don't know, but he'll probably be an animal on special teams. And getting him late 5, he was being projected to be a 3rd round pick, and that was a little high for me. But late round 5, I'm all about it. That was my favorite pick.
Yeah, he is active, and at minimum, he should be a special teams demon. And they neglect the linebacker position more than maybe any team in the league. So the people ahead of him aren't that daunting. Maybe he gets on the field. But I'm with you. I mean, there's not really a pick here that I'm like, oh, nice pickup. That'll really help. Or, boy, great value. Or, can't believe he was there. Or, man, that just addresses a huge need. I mean, yeah, they got a tight end, and I guess that's a priority. That's fine. But another edge rusher who's I have mixed feelings about. I don't know if he's worth a 3rd round pick. And Ty Hamilton, I don't know if he's even drafted anywhere later in the 7th round. If he would have went to Kent State or Akron instead of Ohio State, he's fine. I don't see anything special there. I just don't think you're going to get much out of this class.
It's a good point about their linebackers too. Is Chris Paul worried about competing with Troy Reeder and Omar Spates and Jalen McCullough and Nate Landman? And
I like his chances. Yeah.
Some of these names I think might be made up. Like, I don't know who Tony Fields II is. Apologies to the Fields family. Elias Neal.
They don't care about linebacker.
Yeah, so there you go. There's the off-ball backer crew. Ty Hamilton obviously is not going to play in front of Braden Fisk or Kobe Turner on that defensive line. Here's the thing is, okay, so you traded down, you got a second, your first pick in this draft, second rounder. Terrence Ferguson, I thought was a third or fourth round guy. They drafted him in the second round.
Yeah.
And the reason they're trying to upgrade their tight end group is because they just have, some solid players, but I think they just added another one of the same. Is Terrence Ferguson that good of a prospect where you're like, oh, cool, we finally get to upgrade over Tyler Higbee, who's been banged up? I think Davis Allen
a little better than Tyler Higbee. Is that what you're shooting for?
I don't know that he's that much better of a prospect than Davis Allen was a couple of years ago coming out. We got Colby Parkinson. So I don't really see the vision here in the draft for the Rams aside from trading down. So I'm not going to give them a D because they did trade and got an extra first round pick. And I thought that was a smart move, but I didn't like the ones they actually made this year. So I'm going to go C-, but I almost kind of want to go D+ with this class.
I was thinking a C- too. And that future first is really their saving grace to me. I mean, we talked about Minnesota. They got a lot of low grades. They didn't make many picks, but I at least understood them a little more and thought they were a little more useful, but I don't like this draft haul at all.
Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers, there's 22 picks combined between these two classes, and I think they helped themselves a lot more than, say, the Los Angeles Rams did in this draft. And the Seahawks went to the trenches early with North Dakota State listed as a guard. Thought he might be a future center, but for the Seahawks now, as they're constructed, probably going to start at guard. Gray Zabel in round 1, pick 18. Then they followed that up with Nick Emmanwori, who slid out of round 1 to the 3rd pick in round 2. They moved up to get him, safety out of South Carolina. Elijah Arroyo, who I think is more physically gifted and a better prospect at tight end out of Miami, going just a couple picks after Terrence Ferguson was drafted by the Rams in round 2, pick 18 in round 2. Then, interesting, Jalen Milroe, developmental quarterback in round 3 at quarterback. Again, another trade there. And then Riley Mills, Notre Dame defensive tackle in round 5. Torrey Horton, Colorado State wide receiver in round 5. Another 5th round pick. It is Robbie Outs, a tight end out of Alabama. So doubling up on tight end in this draft. Then going Kansas offensive tackle Bryce Cabeldu. I don't know how to pronounce that properly.
Take it away. Yeah.
Anyway, and then Damian Martinez. Apparently there's some stuff with him. And so he slid all the way to the 7th round with one of 3 7th round picks for the Seattle Seahawks. Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami, Mason Richmond, Iowa, offensive tackle, and then Ricky White, wide receiver out of UNLV. A couple of these prospects, those 5th and 6th rounders, I have not watched a lot of, but there are some prospects I have watched a lot of. I loved Gray Zabel. I don't know about how high he went, but I think that was more indicative of this draft class. Like if you swapped Zabel and Emmanwori, I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have said much about it either way. But I do like Zabel. I do like Nick Emmanwori where they were able to get him. I like Elijah Arroyo, especially compared to where other tight ends went in this draft. Jalen Milroe, love taking him late round 3. I think you draft and develop and see what you get there in a quarterback. And this is, at the end of round 3 too, outside of, this is in the comp region of the 3rd round. Torrey Horton, Colorado State wide receiver. Love that pick. I think he's going to contribute for that football team as a 5th rounder. And then, we'll see what happens with Damian Martinez, but clearly more talented than a 7th round running back. Ricky White can play as well. So they added a ton. I like this draft. How can you not?
I do too. And I will say they have more than their share of dudes I don't know hardly anything about. Robbie Oots is a fullback / tight end, and Calabadu and whoever these dudes are. But there was a handful of picks that I really like. I think Zabel's going to be a star. I really think he's a Pro Bowl type guy in the making. I'd prefer he played center, but it looks like he's going to play guard. There are some concerns, either injury or whatever else, on Arroyo. I think he fell because of some injury stuff.
Yeah.
Horton might not be ready for a while. And you mentioned Martinez, but they're all really good at football. I mean, I love their tape for the skill position guys they got. But Milroe's my pick. Milroe and Zabel, to me, are so worth it. And they have heavy Ravens ties. I'm hoping Milroe gets a rookie year Lamar, 5 to 15 snaps a game, Wildcat, see where they're at. If he hits, you can get out of Darnold easily. I'm not big on the Mills pick, but it's a 5th round. So what? I'm not going to kill him for that. What I don't love is I understand the allure with Emmanwori, but I'm hearing people saying, "Oh, they got their Kyle Hamilton. He's the next Cam Chancellor." I don't see it on tape. I mean, he tests better than he plays.
Yeah, so he was a day 2 guy, I think, on tape. And then
Yeah.
combine, everyone started putting him in the first round and even in the top 15. It was like, okay, well, that's too high. He doesn't play that well. But then getting him at the top of the second round, I think that makes sense. I mean, that's where you take a swing on that. And he's,
they had a lot of picks to trade up to get him. I mean, they traded Geno,
yeah.
They traded DK. I mean, they picked up a lot on day 2.
And the one thing about Gray Zabel, and this is why I don't think it's phenomenal value, is I like him. He's really athletic. Like he stays in front of his man. He's not a power player. And if I'm going to draft, a guard at pick 18, I want him to be able to move people. And that's not really his game, but he is super athletic. And I mean, he just stays in front of the guys. And so that's why I like him at center, because maybe he gets some help.
I think he's a great center. Right. Yeah, I don't know that depending what you like. I mean, him and Booker were so different. But I mean, for this system, I'd rather have Zabel. It's the Saints offensive coordinators, Shanahan system, wide zone. So they are looking for athletes, but he's not a masher. I mean, that's true. And in this draft, we've said it a million times, you had to pay an O-line tax. I mean, he wasn't going to last much longer, I don't think.
B+ for me.
Yes, agreed. Okay, I'm there with that.
No A's yet so far in the NFC.
I don't give those out easy.
And we'll see. Maybe Matt gives out an A to the San Francisco 49ers. Let's talk.
Not going to happen.
Draft. Yeah, not for me either. I like more than some, but it's not an A for me. Niners draft next. Another massive draft class, 11 selections for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2025 draft. And it started with defensive end Mykel Williams out of Georgia. And man, they wanted large people that can stop the run. That was clearly a priority for the 49ers in this draft. And no better example than round 2, Alfred Collins, 6'5", 330 pounds, defensive tackle out of Texas. Round 3, Nick Martin, undersized, super athletic, running back from Oklahoma State, up and stout, pure nickel, small, but plays like he's 6'3". CJ West, nose tackle out of Indiana. Maybe my favorite pick for the 49ers was CJ West. Love getting him in the 4th round. Jordan Watkins, 4th round wide receiver, Ole Miss. Then you go Jordan James out of Oregon, running back. Marcus Siegel, an athletic safety / nickel from Kansas State. Probably will play safety for the Niners, less nickel role that he played that star role at Kansas State. And Curtis Rourke, Indiana quarterback in round 7, one of 3 7th round picks. Drafted an offensive lineman in Connor Colby, guard out of Iowa, and then Junior Bergen, a return man wide receiver out of Montana, to finish it up in round 7. And if I may for a moment pat myself on the back here, Matt, one of my greatest mock draft accomplishments in my career so far, I hit 4 of these picks in my
Did you really?
Final mock draft for the San Francisco 49ers. I had him drafting Mykel Williams, had him drafting CJ West, had him taking Nick Martin, albeit in round 5 instead of round 3. And Curtis Rourke, 7th round quarterback. I identified him in the fall as this is a Shanahan quarterback, throws with some anticipation, tough, played through an ACL injury. He might have to redshirt for the Niners this year, but I think they got themselves a perfect Shanahan fit backup in Curtis Rourke. So I could see someone not liking this draft, Matt, because I don't know if they got a lot of quote unquote value versus the consensus draft boards, but I do think they got a lot of really good players.
Yeah. So I want to start with the good, for my opinion, and I'll go from the bottom up. I love the Rourke fit. I'm a big Curtis Rourke fan, and unfortunately, I don't know that he'll be ready for camp or well into the season. It could definitely be a redshirt year, but that's fine. You got Mac Jones, you got Purdy. I mean, so what? So I loved getting him there.
He's somewhat similar to Mac Jones, by the way.
I know. Yeah, better athlete.
How he plays, right?
Yeah. Jordan James will definitely be on some of my dynasty teams. I didn't test great, but I think his tape is much better than that, and I think he's a high-quality back. Big CJ West fan here, and I can almost tell you with a lot of certainty that if he would have fallen a couple more picks, the Steelers would have grabbed him. I think that just from pre-draft chats, I'm a little higher on Alfred Collins than you were, but him and Mykel Williams and West clearly are attacking what makes the Niners to me. You got a great D-line coach. That's been the backbone of your success over the years, and now you should be back to that.
Yeah, Robert Saleh came in and he looked at this front and he said, "This is not going to work, guys." And so he went to work in the draft, spent a lot of picks on a lot of, and I think one of the biggest lessons here, and we saw it with a lot of players in a lot of the draft, and we get so enamored with the small, fast guys. The league absolutely loves big men who have athleticism and projectable body types, and you got to be able to stop the run on first and second down before you get the opportunity to rush on third downs. And I think teams were like super high on Mykel Williams versus consensus. Teams were super high on Alfred Collins. I kind of thought he was more of a third round guy because I don't know how good of a pass rusher he's ever going to be. And he's almost a little too big at times for me. Like gets kind of Javon Kinlaw ran in this problem. Like 6'6" is tall. Like you like to have length, but it's a double-edged sword on the interior. It can work against you. Yeah. And so there's times where he gets, plays a little high. And I don't know if he has athletic range to be much of a pass rusher. So I think there's some boomer bust there with Alfred Collins. But I mean, when a guy is that big and strong, 6'5", 330, I get it too. Mykel Williams, you've got to develop the pass rush. CJ West is more of a nose, but can penetrate and get upfield. And has
this tape is fun.
Right. But then you look at, so they drafted 3 defensive linemen in the first 4 rounds with a combined 8 sacks last year. So
wow. That's not so great. Yeah, I knew West had none. Yeah.
Yeah, someone's got to develop some more pass rush, right? And I think a lot of it's going to have to come from Mykel Williams because I don't know how much Collins and West are going to give you. And I don't know if Collins and West are really a great pairing together either because
interesting.
Be like more of a nose for me. So I think that means they think Alfred Collins can move around and play a little bit more 3 technique and that there's more pass rush there. So we'll see.
I tend to agree on Collins, but maybe that's wishful thinking. He's not super twitchy,
No.
But then I also have the bad. I kind of think every other pick was a reach. Nick Martin, I adored Upton Stout. So top. Everyone's going to love him, but he's a 5th or 6th rounder to me all day long. I mean, he's
5'8", 180.
Right.
This was my take. I was like, they got good players, and clearly they liked those guys. But this was where it's like, well, we love the way they play. We're going to overlook the outlier size. And we're talking Nick Martin and Upton Stout are both single-digit percentile size outliers at their positions. And so for me, and I'm watching this draft, and I'm like, well, look, I would bet my next paycheck that Nick Martin was going to be there at the following pick, and that Upton Stout would have been there at the following pick. And I didn't really like the Jordan Watkins selection. He had pretty much all of his production came in one game against a banged-up Arkansas secondary. He hasn't played to his 4.37 speed. So, I think you get Nick Martin there. I think you get Upton Stout there. And then now all of a sudden you have a free 3rd round pick. Like, that's not nothing. So that's got to factor in. I do think Jordan James is one of those guys that doesn't wow you physically. And all of a sudden you look up in 2026 that he's winning your fantasy football league.
Like, if McCaffrey goes down, he's probably the guy, right?
I think Garendo is best suited as the extra back and like the 3rd round type or the 3rd down type back. And I think he'll play a backup role. Even if McCaffrey gets hurt, I think Jordan James could become the starter. So there's your fantasy sleeper.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick him in my dynasty drafts often. But again, I thought that a lot of overdrafting, but there were 5 picks kind of like Seattle that I really liked,
And here's the upside of it is like, they might've drafted 5 players, 6 even that are going to start this year. Like all 3 defensive linemen might be out there in week 1. Nick Martin might be out there at weak side linebacker, in that old Dre Greenlaw role in week 1. Upton Stout might be the starting nickel in week 1. Like, he's ready to play early. If he's going to be good, he's going to be good probably right away in the NFL. So they got some starters, but they had a lot of needs. And I think they did kind of force need, especially in that 3rd round area with Martin and Stout. I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, again, I think they'll get a lot. They lost a lot in free agency, but a lot of those 3rd and 4th round picks need to hit. I don't know. They seem to reach a lot as a team overall.
They've reached more than any team in the NFL, according to Warren. When you look at consensus, they've literally versus consensus, they reach more than any team in the league in the last, since 2017 when this regime took over.
I think that's 100% true.
Yep. And they've hit on some and they've missed on some.
Right. But I think Shanny gets, you know better than I do, but he seems to fall in love with some guys.
Oh, he does. Yeah. And usually it's like an offensive player, but this time it was defensive guys, I think. And so,
yes.
Anyway, overall, they got a lot of picks, so you got a lot of darts thrown at the dartboard to have some hits. I'm in the B- C+ range with this draft. I just think they got so many starters. I think I like it more than some people did, and there's some huge upside. Like Mykel Williams and Alfred could be absolute monsters in the NFL.
They could.
There's also work to do. Like they need to be able to get home and pressure the quarterback.
They could really change the franchise a little bit. The direction, like get back to big time D-line play.
What's your?
I guess we got to rank them, huh?
Yeah.
I'm going to give them a B as well.
Okay. I'm a B-. I think that's where I'm going to land on the San Francisco 49ers.
Value's hurting me here a little bit,
Value hurts. They got a lot of picks, a lot of starters. There's going to be some good players. And look, I actually really love Nick Martin and Upton Stout, though. But maybe
I love Stout again, but
they've been better playing the draft game, and so those guys have to be big time contributors to live up to those draft slots. And then obviously the pass rush that is developed by the first two picks, and that's going to be the anchor of this class.
I can see those two being fan favorites on the defense and helping soon, but it just seemed early.
That is the NFC West. Let us know what you think at BD Peacock.
We got to rank them though. But we go one to 4 real quick.
The actual. Oh yeah. The
I think we figured it out. Yeah. I mean, Rams are 4.
The worst draft, even factoring in the future first that they got.
Yeah. I'll go Seattle 1.
I would say, what was my letter grade for the Cards? I think I go Cards 1, just because I think there's bigger impact potential than the Seahawks. And the Seahawks and Niners are close. They got a lot of draft picks. And then Rams 4. Yeah. Cards 1 for me. There you go. That's the NFC West. Let us know what you think. You could drop a comment on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. And Matt and I back next week, breaking down the East, finishing up the NFC. We still got the entire AFC team by team, division by division, every pick, and your mailbag questions as well tomorrow or next week. That is not back tomorrow. It's weekend time. Have a great weekend. Matt and I back Monday right here. Peacock and Williamson.